Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Everyone ready? Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming this evening. This is Startup Grind Cardiff. We are one of the largest startup communities in the world. We are in over 110 countries, and we are here to promote entrepreneurship and collaboration among entrepreneurs and to make as many connections as possible. So tonight we've got a fantastic speaker. We have Adam Deacon. Adam, he's got such an inspiring profile, and from trying to be a pilot in the Royal Air Force into doing what he does today. So I'm sure everyone will enjoy what Adam has to say, and for him to tell us about his story. So can we please, as is in traditional startup grind, we all have to stand up and applaud and make as much noise as possible for our great speaker tonight. So can we please stand up if you can and cheer our speaker, Adam Deacon. Welcome, Adam. So how are you feeling tonight?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Okay, great. So you're looking forward for tonight, or?
Hopefully a good experience.
Yeah, sure. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you were born, and just to get a slight introduction from yourself?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, nothing out of the ordinary at all. So I was born in Abingdon, which is just outside Oxford, and my family moved to Chepstow when I was a couple of years old. So I sort of grew up in that sort of Chepstow, Forest of Dean area. And to be honest with you, just a really ordinary family. So I went to school just outside Chepstow, in a place called Tutstall. At that time, I was very focused on what I wanted to do in the future, and that was really to follow many of my sort of family members in joining the RAF. I wanted to be a pilot. But unfortunately, it's not really a route I could go down. I was a little bit too tall, and as you mentioned, I ended up in a completely different route. So a company offered me a training contract. I became a financial advisor.
Okay. So going back, so before you make that decision, is that because your family wanted you to become part of the RAF, or was that a personal?
No, it was completely down to me. So when I was about 13, 14, I joined the Air Training Corps, and that gave me the chance to experience flying, and I just absolutely loved it. And I still do a bit of flying today, sort of as a hobby, really.
That was one of my questions, but so that's one of your passions, flying.
Yes, yeah. As often as I can, I fly gliders.
Okay, excellent. So, what made you become then trying to become a financial advisor? Was that by choice, or?
As I think many people who do my job now, purely by accident, really. So, whilst I was applying to the RAF, I took what I believed at the time would be quite a short-term temporary role as an administrator with a small family firm in Chepstow. And when things took a turn and I found out I wasn't going to be joining the RAF, I went to them and they said, well, if you'd like, instead of going off to university, stay with us and we'll pay for all of your qualifications and qualify with us. So I thought, no, give it a go. I deferred university for another year and stuck with them.
Excellent. So that's still the same company once you first started?
No, so I've moved on since. Unfortunately, as a lot of people go through, especially at the moment, we hear in the news all the time, I went through a couple of rounds of redundancy. That made me sort of question what I was doing at that point, not being fully qualified. I was sort of cast out, but found myself quite a fortunate position really, that there were firms who were willing to take on people not in advisory roles, but as researchers, analysts. So that was the next step that I took really, with the London Shipbuilding Society in their financial planning business. And I continued my qualifications with them, and later with an accountancy practice in Bridgend.
So numbers is something you feel comfortable with? Is that something that you saw, if I can't fly, what to do accounts?
Yeah, I just realised that actually I've always been quite analytical and a bit of a problem solver, and I realised that the job of actually advising people on their futures, their retirement, their business, or even startup companies is very much problem solving and actually helping people to get across some kind of barrier that they've got ahead of them. And actually being able to do that for people was what I found really rewarding. It wasn't necessarily all the technical bits of advice around it that were hugely interesting, but actually walking away from a meeting with somebody smiling, realising that they could achieve their own aspirations was where I felt really comfortable. And that's what made me really want to progress.
So in terms of the family, have they been supportive, or is that a big part of what?
Yeah, I mean, my first role actually started in 2009, so 2008, 2009, sort of mid-financial crisis. And I have to admit, I was really 18 at the time, and my mum's one concern was, well, surely you're not going to earn any money. I said, well, you know, and then I'm doing a job, an office-based job, nice and secure, it's training, paying for all of my qualifications. I thought, what can really go wrong with that?
Yeah. And you were getting money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, since that point, everybody's been hugely supportive, and I can help them out now as well.
Oh, excellent. So, did you say Forest Lane, Newport, and then you moved on to Cardiff?
Yes. So before I started where I am now, I actually joined an accountancy practice in Bridgend, and at that point I helped the owners of that business set up a new firm. So we set up a wealth management business outside of the accountancy practice, and that's where I really started to build on advising business owners in small companies. And that sort of opened my eyes to what this other world was really, having prior to that sort of dealing with families and then seeing that there is a whole other host of issues that small businesses, business owners face. Just kind of excited me a bit really, as weird as that sounds. It just gave me another challenge. And as a challenge I thought actually I could really focus my time on to make a big difference to people.
And is that when you decided to move to Cardiff and take a new role?
Yeah. So from that point, still relatively young compared to the sort of average person doing my role, and I decided to join one of the largest independent businesses in the country, Chase de Vere. And I actually hated it. And I just hated the size of it, to be honest with you, not really meaning anything to the business. And that's what really changed my direction and took me back to where I am now.
You said that because the company was too big and there was no one-to-one interaction. Is that what you?
Yeah, I've always, my own personal focus has always been on trying to do best for my clients. And always putting my clients at the centre of what I do. But in a big organisation, you start having pressure of doing right by your company, not necessarily more so than your client, I'd never say that, but there's different pressures involved. And I'd much rather work with my clients in a more familiar, trust-based relationship.
Because that's where you feel most comfortable with.
Yes, yeah.
So would you say that your passion is more geared to one-to-one personal advice, where people can come to you and you can give them the best advice possible?
Yeah, certainly. And when I sort of started this new role and new proposition within my current business, we kind of went out to some of my existing clients and said, well, what matters most to them, and what are the reasons that they've basically taken me on and my team on to work for them. And the majority of people come back to the relationship and the fact that they felt that we care. And to me, that's the best feedback that any business can get, is that their customers or their clients feel that they're being cared for. And that's kind of the foundation of trust, in my opinion. You can do a good job for somebody, but you win their trust and loyalty by actually making them a really important part of what you do.
So that's just before when you decided, did you start your business, or?
Yeah, so what happened really was sort of an unusual one. So it's at the point that I decided I wanted to really step away from this massive organisation that I'd become part of, and an accountancy firm in Cardiff actually were looking for somebody to come along and take over their financial advice business. I jumped at the opportunity because they were a very well respected accountancy practice in the region, Hodge, Bakshi, and to be able to have that link up with them whilst having the freedom to basically work with clients in the way that I'm most comfortable and to build my business alongside that brand was a fantastic opportunity.
So, and that's when you became the director.
Yes. Yeah. So the way that we're set up is we're actually two separate companies. So we've got Hodge Bakshi Accountants, and then my business, so we've got Hodge Bakshi Wealth Management, which is an independent financial advice business for families and businesses.
So, and you've been running that business for?
Nearly 2 years now. So it still feels very early days. Very much focused on getting everything right for my clients, and at the same time trying to build a team. And that's probably been my biggest challenge in that 2 years really, is actually learning how to train people. So I've been on the receiving end of it for the early part of my career, and then ingrained in teams where teams are already really established. In case there's hundreds of employees, I've never had to worry about if people got the right level of knowledge, what development they need. So when I was faced with recruiting people for the first time, I was quite nervous about it, deciding what should we be focusing on. Should it be the knowledge, the ability to do the job? Obviously that's really important, but also who is the right person in general. That was quite a daunting task.
Have you had, well, I'm sure you've made mistakes throughout your career, but have you had any recent mistakes which, you've learned from that? Or?
I wouldn't say, I'm sure we will have some mistakes in Hodge Bakshi, but we haven't had any big mistakes so far.
In terms of hiring?
I think some of the mistakes, particularly around training people or finding the right people, has been maybe underappreciating the knowledge that we can actually impart on other people, and kind of appreciating needing to understand what we know to start off with. And that sounds quite odd, but it's actually quite challenging. You get somebody who's maybe been a business administrator but wants to move into a quite technical role, having to actually write down everything that you know about financial planning, advice, business management, to then be able to create a training plan. And I found that really, really difficult, and actually did a couple of different attempts at it So we tried it completely ourselves to start off with, and that went really slowly. To be honest with you, it wasn't the best way. And then we sort of bit the bullet and brought in another company to help us with that support. And they actually support us across our business, but particularly with the training, they've been invaluable.
So what would you recommend for other startups to bring in possibly partners or outside outsourcing that particular part of the business? Or?
I think for a startup in any industry, but particularly within ours, outsourcing as much as possible is really important, because taking on salaried roles is a huge burden to some degree. Even if you get somebody with huge quality and talent, you have to suddenly produce this extra money to pay their salary every month. So if for the first, however long it takes to build up a client book or income, you can outsource those services, then that's fantastic. I mean, for myself, our route for that was actually outsourcing a job function completely to a company that purely did research, analysis, and sort of technical writing. So we did that until the point we knew we could support a power planner, which is effectively, they work very closely alongside myself, but they're not allowed to give financial advice. So they help me in preparing all of that.
So we can see that there's a few things that advice that you gave as well. That outsourcing is quite a good important point, which I need to apply for myself. But what makes you get out of bed every day? Is it because I'm meeting a client, or is it because you're going to make some money for yourself? What drives you?
If I was in it for myself, I probably wouldn't be running a small practice.
Okay.
There are much quicker ways of making money through financial advice. It's completely down to the clients. I just absolutely love meeting so many different kinds of people. And I think I can meet maybe 5 to 10 different clients a week. Every single one of them will have a different problem that they need help with. Not all of them pay us fees. So not every person that we see will actually become a paying client. They might just need some advice and guidance. And that's something which I don't shy away from.
Okay.
Because the more that we can almost educate people to some degree, it means that their business might be a bit more successful, or their lifestyle might be a little bit better. And to me, that's massive value. And they might refer us to their friends or colleagues as well.
Of course. So is that what makes you different? Your company, it's the looking after the customer first, as opposed to charging a fee first.
Yeah, definitely. And if I was to sort of try and paint a picture of it, we recently had a brand new client walk through the door, and we were actually up against a much larger firm. So they'd gone out to a bit of a beauty parade of firms, and they've narrowed it down to us and one other, and I didn't think we were going to get clients. So the company's huge marketing power behind this nice and slick, polished operation. But actually they came through to us, and when we asked them why, they said it came back to caring. We took the most time in that early part of the process to really understand what they wanted and needed. And again, that comes back to the foundation of what we really believe in.
So at the moment your company has how many staff?
At the moment we're really small.
Okay.
So there's 3 of us at the moment, and we've kind of been able to keep it quite small because we've invested a lot in technology to help us do the work that we do. And that's probably meant that instead of needing 6 members of staff, we've got 3. But that's also allowed us to make ourselves lower cost. So we've passed all of that on to our clients.
So, and what's your plans for, how do you see the company developing I mean, what would be your ideal scenario for yourself?
It started to happen through this daunting training process. So two of the members of the team are actually training for promotions at the moment. So they're sort of slowly moving up the ladder in terms of what their job roles are. But that's opening up the doors for somebody with a lot less experience to come in. And we're hoping to be able to do that through apprenticeships. Because in all honesty, the average age of people doing my job is about 58 to 60. There's a huge lack of people to actually come into the industry when this massive financial planners retire. And there's big barriers to entry in that nobody really knows what we do as a job. So we're hoping to be able to actually offer apprenticeships out in the next 12 months. And it won't just be for graduates, it'll be for college leavers and maybe even school leavers with the right attitude for it. So we're trying to give something back in that sense of moving away from the expectation of everybody being graduates coming into the industry or people coming in from other careers much later in life.
So you're trying to get people like yourself when first started.
Yes, exactly.
So your company, are you looking to expand outside Cardiff? Is that in the plans, or is that something that you would perhaps one day try to do? Or your client base mainly in South Wales?
The majority of clients are in South Wales, but we do a lot of work in Bristol and a bit further afield as well. And ultimately, one of our clients could be in Cardiff, but they might have a friend in London that they refer us to, or in Birmingham, or anywhere else in the country. And naturally, if we've got a referral, we want to be able to help that client. So a lot of travelling is involved, but also, with technology, we can have face-to-face meetings through Skype or by other means. So that just allows us to free up a lot of time, really, to enable us to see a lot more people than we could otherwise.
So, because you've got two businesses, the wealth management and the other one, which is it advisory?
So there's the accountancy practice.
Okay. Do you see the two ever coming together, or always be separate? Or?
Back in the early days of the accountancy practice, they were one business. They're actually separated mainly for regulation and everything else, but the two will ultimately stay separate. We're based in the same building, we're one big family at the end of the day, but my side of things it's a very small team in comparison. But like I said, we're growing and aiming to do something a little bit different to what else is out there.
So you see yourself having offices in different places at some point in the future? Yeah,
definitely. Particularly as we grow and gain more clients further afield, then the likelihood is that we'll continue taking on more staff. That will require more people who can do my job, and ultimately those people will be based where the clients are. So that might be somebody based in Bristol. They might need an office, they'll need their own support, and the company will grow quite fast from that point.
In terms of, you mentioned you're looking to help people with apprenticeships and things like that. Have you ever done any mentoring outside your company? Is that something you may consider, or?
It's not something that I've done directly, but a new scheme that we're part of through one of our industry bodies is going to be financial education in schools and colleges. And that's a bit of, there's absolutely no revenue to us. It's again about giving something back and providing something which is meant to be in the curriculum, but isn't really achieved. So what we'll be doing over the next, coming to an awkward time of year really, But over the next sort of 6 months, we'll be approaching schools and colleges to be able to provide financial education to sort of 16 to 18-year-olds, which is focused around real-life financial matters. So looking around how young people should be planning, whether they're off to university or going into their first jobs, what are some of the pitfalls to try and avoid, what are the sort of benefits, downsides of things like credit cards that the bank are more than happy to thrust at you to spend until you hit your limit, and everything else. What is a pension? What will happen when you get your first job? All of a sudden now the law requires you to be almost forced into a pension scheme, but what does it really mean? So hopefully we can make a little bit of a difference with that. I'm not expecting to change the world with it. We're only a very small firm.
Yes,
but
it takes a lot of time.
Yes, yeah.
So, in terms of startups, what's your offer for a startup? Let's say some of our audience. How could you help a startup?
I think the probably most valuable part of it is actually the first conversation. Because every startup will be different and will have different needs. And I think it's actually about having somebody on hand who can provide support in whatever way is needed. Whether it's being able to just connect them to people who can either help in terms of being customers or help grow their business to start off with. That's invaluable help in my opinion. It's something that we can give. Once a startup has started to actually grow, that's when our services become a bit more involved. Because there are concerns for any business, but particularly startups, which are a really high risk stage, that if, let's just say, you started a business 12 months down the road, it's established, but it's very reliant on yourself as an individual, as almost every startup is. If something happens to you that stops you working for 6 months, your business in that 6 months could disappear. Your income has disappeared. How do you plan around that when actually you've pumped all of your money into this new business? Most people will really struggle or fail at that point. But with some really simple steps, we can help avoid that situation, hopefully.
So it's a valuable advice for any startup.
Yes.
Even people watching us on video.
Exactly.
So in terms of your plans, how do you see, are you looking possibly for any partners with larger companies, or do you always see your brand to remain as it is?
We're always keen to work with other businesses that are providing some kind of service to mainly businesses and small businesses, whether that's in the legal, accountancy world, or even things like HR. So what we're trying to do is, for our clients, become a trusted first point of contact. So we've got our range of services that we offer our clients, and they pay us for. But our clients will also come to us with other queries, and it might be, well, we've got this problem with a member of the team, how can we deal with this? Well, we'll have people outside of our business and our wider network that we can refer them to.